Schus of learning should be a panacea. Start today, Kufalif, that's 101. 101A. It starts from Ba'az the Shmuel, which is 5. What we're saying until now, we have a Machlekes Rav and Shmuel about Kiddush. If you make Kiddush in Shul, we're talking about Friday night. You make Kiddush, and then the members of the Shul go home. What would they yaitzu with that Kiddush? So Rav said, not the bracha on the wine. They have to make another bracha on wine at home, but they don't have to recite Kiddush again. So they could just wash and eat. And when they drink wine, they have to make a new bracha. Shmuel said that they have to make a new bracha on wine, but they also have to make Kiddush again. So they're not yaitzu Kiddush. So then the Gemara asks, so why do you say Kiddush in Shul? Or rather, according to Rav, why do you say Kiddush at home? That's the first question. You already yaitzu Kiddush in Shul. They said, well, your family wasn't in Shul. According to Shmuel, why do you make Kiddush in Shul if you have to make Kiddush at home again? So he says, you make Kiddush in Shul for the people that are going to stay in the Shul. They're going to eat. Not for anyone that's going home. Anyone that's going home has to make Kiddush again, according to Shmuel. So now the Gemara says, Vaz the Shmuel if I make. Again, it's a Machlekes Rav and Shmuel. If when you get home, after hearing Kiddush and Shul, if you have to make Kiddush again. So Shmuel follows his reasoning. Damar Shmuel in Kiddush al b'makom suda. You only yaitzu Kiddush in the place of Suda. Yesterday we you have enough for the night, and you have enough for a meal. You have to now walk. We'll talk about that in a minute. Give me a minute before we get to that. Bring up an interesting topic. Let's give it a few lines. So yesterday we quoted the Karasal Shabbos Einig, that the place where you call Shabbos, that's where you have the meal, the Einig. That's the Kiddush Makom Suda. We were discussing if Kiddush Makom Suda is a din in Kiddush or if it's a din in Suda. I'm not sure what the nafkamina would be, but what does it mean Kiddush Makom Suda? You have to have Kiddush in the same place where you have the meal. What comes out is, if I make Kiddush and I don't have a meal, so I wasn't yet to the Kiddush. I wasn't yet to the Kiddush. I have to make Kiddush again. So, in Kiddush el makom suda. Kiddush, in order for it to be a real Kiddush, it has to be in the place of the meal.
When you get on Shabbos day, you're not allowed to have like things that you have Kiddush. So, like, remember when I was younger, even when I was younger, sometimes I would start having a hot roll for breakfast with the meal.
Hold on 1 second. Wait, I'll give it a minute. Let's see. So, Savar Minei, we understood from this, what do we say in Kiddush el makom suda? That's only if you make Kiddush in one house and you want to eat your meal in another house. But you can make Kiddush in one room, in one place in the room, probably. Bias could mean a room also. We'll see in a moment what this means. Actually, the Tosfos over here says Abu Makom Echad Beisa means 2 different rooms. But 2 different rooms in the same house, that's not a problem. Some shuls, they make Kiddush in the shul. And then everyone goes to the social hall to eat. And the rabbi made the Kiddush by the bima. Is that acceptable? But here we're saying Makom Echad Beisa would be fine. However, Daf Yomi is not halacha. I think there's a discussion about seeing the place. So if there's like a glass door, then that would be more, or they open the door or something to see the place where the meal is going to be. Amar Lahu Ravanam Bar Tachlifa. Ravanam Bar Tachlifa said to them, I was many times in front of Shmuel.
to the person that didn't eat it. Isn't it like Shinnin Makar?
Yeah, wait for Shinnin Makar.
Right, so then if you leave, if you're able to see it, then you're fine.
Yeah, today's like is Shinnin Makar.
So then have to
No, here we're saying what's considered Kiddush Makam Suda, that you have to see the place where the Suda is.
Oh, so
yeah. Not talking about leaving. We're going to talk about leaving soon. But right here, we're talking about when you make Kiddush, you should see the location of the Suda. He would go from the roof to the ground floor and they would make Kiddush again. So that seems like it's a problem, right? Even in one house. Yeah, that's what he's bringing out, right? He's talking about Shmuel. So even in one house, it can't be from the roof to the ground floor. Rav Huna also holds this. Rav Huna is a student of Rav. So this is getting like everyone else is saying in Kiddush al Makom Suda. The Rav Huna Kiddush v'sakli shraga. Rav Huna said Kiddush. And then the candle went out. So he brought his utensils, to the chuppah of Rabba, his son. I guess his son was recently married. He went over there to eat. The Habashraga, over there was a candle. The Kaddish, he made Kiddush again, the Talmidi, and then he ate. You see, he had to make Kiddush again. You see, he holds in Kiddush al Makom Suda. Alma Kasava, he wasn't Yaitza. Alma Kasava and Kiddush al Makom Suda. I don't know if that's true either. But we see, whatever the case is, he says over here, we see that Rav Huna holds in Kiddush al Makom Suda. Follow? Rav Huna holds, that's why he had to make Kiddush again. Are you allowed to make Kiddush twice, you're asking? Kiddush is a bracha, right? Baruch atah Hashem mekadosh Hashamos. You can't say the bracha twice, just for no reason. But if someone else didn't hear Kiddush, then you can say it for them, because it's a mitzvah, right? So let's go a little further before I get back to your first question. Yes, you have a lot of discussion, so give me 1 minute. Vaf Rabba Savar and Kiddush al Makom Suda. Rabba also holds that you have to have Kiddush Makom Suda. So we're really lining this up. Shmuel and Rav Huna and now Rabba holds that the Kiddush needs to be in the same place where the meal is. Damar Abaya says, Ki Avina Beimar. When I was in the house of the master, who's the master when Abaya is speaking? Rabba. Abaya grew up by Rabba. Says, when I was in the master's house, Ki Avin Makadesh, when he would say Kiddush, Amarlan, he would say to us, Timu Midi, taste something. What does that mean, something? Herring. Taste something. Maybe by the time you get to your host, the candle is going to go out. Shraga is a candle, a lamp. And you didn't make Kiddush in the place where you ate, which is the Kiddush of the Hachalei Nafkis, and you weren't yet to Kiddush here either. In Kiddush al Makom Suda. I don't understand. There's some extra words in here that's what Rab is telling them is that if you don't eat here, then you were not yet to Kiddush. Why is he adding all of this? The candle's going to go out over there. The candle's going to go out. So what's the candle's going to go out? So what? So you're not going to eat over there. That's not the point. Eat now. So yeah, because the candle might go out and you're not going to eat over there. And you're not yet to Kiddush. Okay, let's just take a look at it. 2 points in Taisvus. First Taisvus is when it says taste something. Taisvus says taste something means taste bread. We have a Gemara that says that you can be Yaitze by the Sukkah. Mini Tagima means other types of foods, maybe pastries or something. He says that's only Shalosh Shudis. but the meal of the evening and the meal of the morning has to be washing. Okay, the meal has to be washing. That's the Friday night and Shabbos morning meal. It's a shaila. What's the shaila? How does everyone make kiddush and shul? They don't wash. If kiddush, what's Taisa saying? Kiddush b'makom suda. When do I say kiddush? Friday night and Shabbos morning. What's considered a suda? Bread. Timumidi, paste bread. How am I making kiddush and shul? The problem. So Yossi mentioned that you can make kiddush on other things. What were you saying before? You can make kiddush on bread also. What did you mention before?
But that's the same thing. But if you have a person say cake, and you have like a punch salad, which is a meal, it has to benefit.
Oh, that's what you're saying. So I saw Rabbi Soloveitchik. Rabbi Soloveitchik held that he explained kiddush and shul like this. There's one shita that holds that you're allowed to eat before kiddush Shabbos morning. We don't pass like that, but there's a shita that says that you're allowed to eat before kiddush. It's only at night that would be an issue, but in the morning you're allowed to eat before kiddush. Then there's another shita that holds that you yaitze kiddush without bread. So based on those two shitas together, combined together, that's why we make kiddush. We can make kiddush and shul. So 1 second. What he says then is that based on that, what am I eating before kiddush? I'm eating not my meal. I'm eating mezainis or whatever. So based on that, when I get home and I'm going to have a real meal, I wasn't yaitze kiddush according to Tosfos. When I get home, I should make another kiddush. People do that, I think. They get home, they do it because the wife's at home. Let's say your wife wasn't, everyone wasn't shul. You get home, you're going to have your meal. Do you make kiddush again at home? So, yes. Other place can say no. Because you're going to wash. He says that's it. Look, Tosfos says, this is the real kiddush. This is kiddush makom suda. You were yaitze according to other shitas, but not the real one. Yeah, the other shitas, I think I saw this. I think the Bashi Weiss, he says exactly the opposite. You make it, you're showing your kiddush and shul wasn't anything, then how are you eating in shul? Because you're creating a problem. And then what's the real problem is that you made a hagafen before your mezainas, and you only do that before your bread. You would only do that if you have a chiyuv kiddush. Really, chitas are a gefen. You make the line out, but kiddush you have to make. Okay, so that's the first Tosfos over here. The second Tosfos is b'kiddusha da'achalein apisu. Tosfos says, what about having a candle when you eat? Doesn't it say that you're supposed to have a candle when you eat? He says, listen to this. He was telling them, maybe the candle went out and you weren't yaitze kiddush. What's the problem with that? I'm not sure, but he's saying that maybe you're going to try to eat 3 meals tomorrow because you have to have 3 meals on Shabbos. Candle went out, see it. But when tomorrow you're going to try to eat your 3 meals, but you weren't yaitze kiddush yet. So really you have to eat over here something to be yaitze kiddush, and then you don't need the 3 meals tomorrow anyway. But we're just trying to avoid the issue of eating without a candle on Shabbos. Yeah, okay. So, thank you, so the Aini. Is that really so? That Rabbah holds, so far we have Shmuel, Rav Huna, Rabbah, they hold Ein Kiddush El B'Makom Suda. Is that really so? V'amar Abaya, Kol Mili Demar Abad Karav L'Bar Mehani Tlas. Abaya says that everything of the master, Rabbah, he always paskin like Rav, except for these 3 things. And these 3 things that he's about to say does not include Kiddush B'Makom Suda, which means that he paskins like Rav Kiddush by Kiddush Kiddush doesn't need to be b'makom siddur. That was Rab's opinion. David Kishmuel, there's 3 exceptions, and one of them is not Kiddush. Kiddush is not one of them. Shmuel, Rav Huna, Rabbah. They all hold. You're right. The problem is that Rabbah always paskins like Rav. What are the 3 things that are the exceptions where he paskins like Shmuel? Beged lebeged. You can take tzitzis off one beged and put it on another beged. It's not considered disgracing the first one. Madlikim miner lener. You're allowed to light the Hanukkah candles without a shamish. Maybe it means with a shamish, but it means from one candle to the next. It was considered that it's part of the mitzvah, so it's not considered degrading for you to do that. And Valacha Kereb Shmuel Begreira, Valacha Kereb Shimon Begreira, and Allah like Reb Shimon, who holds Davar Shein Miskaven and his mutter, that if you're dragging a table, as long as it's not very heavy, on the grass, on the ground, you're not miskaven to make a groove in the ground, it's mutter. So the Tanya Reb Shimon Aimer, Gerad the Mita Kisa B'Saf, so B'Shabbos Vachli Miskaven Lasses Charitz, as long as you don't intend to make a groove, Davar Shein Miskaven is mutter. Of course, if it's going to be a psik resha, it's different. But if it's not that heavy, maybe it's not going to make a groove, then it's acceptable. So what's the pshat that Rabbah paskins like Shmuel, when he only paskins like Shmuel in 3 things, not and one of them is not Kiddush. And then you're telling me he paskins like Shmuel for Kiddush. So the Gemara says, Kechumri de Rav Aviyavad, Kekuli de Rav Le'Aviyavad. That means that he was machmer like Rav in all areas, except for in 3 areas where he was lenient. But he was machmer like other shittas many times. He always did Rav's chumras. Except for 3 that he didn't do. But other people's chumras that he did also. What's another chumrah? Shmuel has a chumrah that says that when you make kiddush, it has to be in the place of the meal. So even though Rav doesn't say that you have to do that, but that's the leniency of Rav. He didn't accept the Rav. Leniency is accept Rav's chumras. Yeah, there's a little bit of a problem over here, that you're supposed to accept your rabbi, whether he's machmer or a mekel. The Rashbam asked this question. He says that's because there becomes contradiction. You're going to come to contradictions if you're not going to do that. But over here, there was no contradiction. Okay. He says, the Rashbam now adds in, someone that makes kiddush for someone else, do you have to eat there? Interesting. Let's say you go to someone's house. Say you have a neighbor, husband's not home or something. They want someone to make kiddush for them, the family. You go over to make kiddush for them. Do you have to eat there? So the Rashbam says you don't have to, because they're eating there. That's fine. It's a kiddush b'makom suda. You don't have to eat it. You drink the wine. Do they have to drink the wine? Unless it tasteless yesterday. Yeah. So you can make kiddush in your own home and let the other people eat because you ate already. You ate in shul, you're full already. But they didn't have kiddush. You're just going to sit there. So you make kiddush for them, and it's fine. They were yotzer. Yeah. Can you blow shofar? And because you want to hear it later. That's what you're asking. You make kiddush in your house, and you're going to get kiddush later. You're going to be yotzer later. I'm not sure. Yossi said that he would have a roll before davening, and he would make kiddush. Now, he said 2 points. He said before bar mitzvah, and then he had it even after bar mitzvah. So I think it's only before bar mitzvah. Why? Because the chiyuv of kiddush is only after you daven shachar. But who has the chiyuv to daven shachar? Only if you're bar mitzvah. So before bar mitzvah, the chiyuv of kiddush is before shachar. Yeah.
I can have a roll of no, before.
Let's say you were eating before Shacharis. You probably don't have to make Kiddush. Yeah, I don't think, there's no. Yeah, I don't know if you're supposed to have a mitzvah before that. But let's say you are for whatever reason. The doctor said, I don't think you have to make Kiddush because it's not the Zman of Kiddush. The Chiyuv doesn't start till after Yidam and Shacharis. But if your younger brother, nephews want to eat the same roll, they should probably have Kiddush. I was at a house in Monsey, Kaplan, that's the name, that's a Hashemah family. Anyway, they would have us make a cup of grape juice, and then we would eat our cereal Shabbos morning. Because before davening, we have an obligation to have Kiddush because, whatever. Yeah. Okay, Rabbi Yochanan. Amar, Afi de Yayin Amiyatzer, Rabbi Yochanan says that Yetzer also wine. Oh, so this is the polar extreme. So far we've been saying everyone holds Kiddush Makam Suda, you're not Yetzer Kiddush, unless you have a meal there. Comes along Rabbi Yochanan and says, of course you Yetzer Kiddush. Not only a Yetzer Kiddush, but you even Yetzer the wine. You don't have to make another bracha on the wine. You're Yetzer Kiddush and the wine. That means you make Kiddush and Shul, you get home, you can continue drinking wine, and you probably, because you drank the wine and Shul. But even though you switched places, you moved the locations, you're Yetzer Kiddush and the wine. That no one said. Even Rav didn't say this. This is an extreme. What's the Rabbi Yochanan Tamei? Rabbi Yochanan follows his reasoning. Damar Rab Chanan bar Abaya, Amar Rav Das, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Rav Das is probably Rabbi Elazar ben Das. It's either his father or his son. Echad Shina Yayin, the Echad Shina Makim, Ein Tzarech Levarech. Shina Yayin. Whether you change the wine, you take out a new bottle of wine, or you change your location where you're drinking, you don't have to make a new bracha. What's your question? I thought if you take out a new bottle of wine, you have to say a teva meter. Place over here on the bottom says, yeah, he's not discussing a teva meter. A teva meter you have to say. If you take out a bottle of wine that's either equal or better, you have to say a teva meter. It says, of course, there's someone else that's drinking with you. There's some other conditions here. Why do you say a teva meter on wine? It's sort of like a shachianu. You take out another wine, you say. But Taisva says that since what's the bracha teva meter? We say the teva meter in benching. It's the fourth bracha. We instituted that bracha because of Haruge Beitai. That they didn't, the bodies didn't decay, and also that we were able to bury them afterwards. So that's Hateva Meiti. Now, what turned out that the vineyards were fertilized by the blood of those corpses. So when we have another wine of the people that died in Beitar, when we have wine, a nice wine or a second wine that we take out, we say Hateva Meiti because of that, remembering the vineyards of the that were fertilized. That's Taisvus, the bottom line of Taisvus. Okay, so what is the Gemara telling me that Rabbi Yochanan holds that Shini Makam you don't have to say in the bracha as long as you had intention. Of course, if you didn't have intention, then that would be a problem. But you can change locations according to Rabbi Yochanan and still continue drinking wine. Meisvei, we're on top of Kufal on the base. The Gemara has a question. Shini Makam Tzarech Levarech. Shini Yayin ain't Tzarech Levarech. We have a Brisa. It says exactly the opposite of Rabbi Yochanan. Shini Makam, if you change your location, you have to say a new bracha. Shini Yayin, if you change wines, that means if you bring another wine, you don't have to say a new bracha. You don't have to say another bracha on another wine. But if you change locations, Rabbi Yochanan didn't say that. Rabbi Yochanan says to change locations, you don't have to say a new bracha. Tiyufta de Rabbi Yochanan, Tiyufta. This is a very strong question on Rabbi Yochanan. We're going to see shortly that we're going to have some possible answers for this. And it's surprising that the Gemara says Tiyufta when we could have resolved it, as we'll see in a moment. Yosef Ravidi Baravin Kameder Rav Chisda. Ravidi Baravin is sitting in front of Rav Chisda. V'yosef Rav Chisda become Shmei Rav Huna, and Rav Chisda saying in the name of Rav Huna. Remember that we said Shini Makim, someone changes his location, he has to say in the bracha. So, I don't know how people chew gum according to this. They have to sit by their office desk, right? Otherwise, there's a problem. Shini Makim, every time they keep walking around. They have a can of something. Oh, well, maybe the flavor, you have to say the bracha on the flavor also, but maybe the flavor's gone, so now it's nothing. That was on the first second. So, and the students in the class, they're chewing gum. I told them, spit out your gum. Besides, there's no flavor left anyway. Like, how do you know? Of course, it's gone right away. Okay.
So there's a Rob, I'm not sure he said that on your kicker, that if it's compensation food, you can take it or spit out or you don't have to do a bracha.
Oh, that you don't have to say a bracha on gum. Interesting. Yeah. Okay. So he's saying in the name of Rav Huna, this that we said, Shini Makim, that if you change your location, you have to say another bracha, the brisa, right? The brisa says you have to say in the bracha when you change location. That's only if you move from house to house. Or there's another girsa here, mipina lapina, where you go from place to place in one house. That's not going to be a problem. Now, depending on the girsa here, it's going to change what the halacha is. But let's say I go from the kitchen to the dining room, from the bottom floor to the second floor. Depends on the girsa, right? That's not a problem. Okay, this is what Rav Chisda is saying in the name of Rav Huna. We learned this in a brisa, in the house of Rav Hinek. Or some say it's a brisa of the yeshiva of Rav Hinek. That was exactly like you're saying. Well, Rav Huna is telling me a brisa. This line is taken out by some of the commentaries. Rav Huna Masnisa Lishmili. Rav Huna didn't know about that brisa. Okay. So Rav Huna is telling me that Shini Makim is a problem only from house to house. Yeah, these halachas get complex if you go from a house to a courtyard, and it depends if the courtyard has a fence, and if you go to the balcony of it, all of these things are nice and complicated halachas. So, another point, Yosef Rav Chisda v'kamish made nafshay. Rav Chisda now says in his own name, not in the name of Rav Huna like in the last one. My timer Okay, we have to divide foods into two categories. One category requires a bracha achrayna. Another category doesn't require a bracha achrayna. Now, when we say it doesn't require a bracha achrayna, we mean it doesn't require an important bracha achrayna. What is that? It doesn't require a benching or possibly a me'en shalish, ala mechia or ala, let's see, it's what's going on here. But what's the other category is a bar nefashos. So because it doesn't require a very important bracha achrayna, so it would go like this. Let's say someone ate fruits that don't require ala eitz, or drank water. So then when he gets up to go, is there anything that's holding him back? He didn't bench. When he gets up to go, he's going to another room. There's really nothing that's holding him back. There's no reason for him to return. He forgot to say the bracha, I'll say it wherever he goes. He doesn't need to return to say that bracha. So therefore, when he stands up to go, his meal is done. There's no bracha achrayna that's holding him, that his meal isn't over. When he gets up, that's considered hesach hadas from the meal. Let's say the other case. Someone's in the middle of a meal. Okay, he has to bench. He didn't bench yet. He gets up. He goes somewhere. He didn't bench yet. So he wants to eat something else. So he's still in the middle of his meal. He didn't bench. So the bracha achreina that you're required to say in your location is still attaching you to your original meal. So he says like this. When did we say shini makom tzarich levarich, that if you change your location, you have to say in your bracha? That's only on things that do not require a bracha achreina in their place. So that's water and fruit. If you move locations, you have to say in the bracha. But dvarim hatunim bracha lachreim b'mkaiman, things that are holding you in your place because you have to say the bracha achreina. So just the fact that you got up doesn't mean that you ended your meal. You got up, you still have to bench. You didn't bench yet. So you don't need to say a new bracha according to this when you're in another location. Because the meal, you're still attached to that meal. You're not finished the meal. You didn't bench it. Yeah, the stringency creates the leniency. By a bar nefashos, I can say the bar nefashos anywhere.
But here you just said that, but if you're going to bench someone,
yeah. So when I stand up and I walk to another location, was I mesiach das entirely from my first eating? So if I have to go back to bench, so then I wasn't mesiach das. I'm still I didn't bench yet. So that then if I'm going to eat in my new location, I don't have to say a new bracha. I was still in the middle of the meal. But if I don't have to return, then my meal was over when I stood up. That's Rav Chisda's. That's Rav Chisda's opinion. Taisvus and the Rashbam, I think, seem to pass them like Rav Chisda. And we're about to see the opinion of Rav Sheshis, and I think the other place can pass them like Rav Sheshis. But the Rashbam has an interesting question. What are we saying? According to Rav Chisda, says Shinei Makim is talking about what? Shinei Makim Tzarech Levar. It's talking about water and fruit. Let's go back to Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan says Shinei Makim ain't Tzarech Levar. We had a kasha on Rabbi Yochanan, which we said Tiyufta the Rabbi Yochanan Tiyufta based on a brisa that says Shinei Makim Tzarech Levar. The Rashbam's question is, we have a great teretz. Why did you just say shlag up Rabbi Yochanan by saying, he says Shini Makim Ein Tzarech Levarach. The Brisa says Shini Makim Tzarech Levarach. I have a teretz. Rabbi Yochanan's talking about wine. Wine requires Yala Gevin. You have to go back to recite that. So therefore, even if you go to a new location, you have to say in the bracha. The Brisa is talking about water. So the Rashbam answers that Brisas, you can talk about, Brisas do not need to be as specific as Rabbi Yochanan does. In other words, I can interpret the Brisa that it's talking about water. And it's not a problem, even though the Brisa didn't say that. Because the Brisa is open to interpretation. It's very concise. And so then I can interpret it. However, Rabbi Yochanan is an Amayra, and Rabbi Yochanan has to clarify everything that he says. And the fact that he didn't say that it's only talking about wine means that he's also talking about water. If that's the case, then it's a kasha in Rabbi Yochanan. That's how he learns this. Okay, Rav Sheshes Amar, Echad Zeh V'Echad Zeh Tzarech Levarech. Rav Sheshes says you always have to say a new bracha if you move locations, whether it's wine or a meal or whatever it is. You move locations, you have to say a new bracha. Not like what Rav Chisda just said. Meisvei, the Gemara has a question. It says like this: B'nei Chabura sheyimasu ben lishtis. You have a party. People are sitting there and drinking. Here, the chassan is coming. Kala, they jump up. They go to do a dance in the next down the street. Kshein yotzin, when they're leaving, ain't in bracha l'mafreya. They don't have to say an after bracha. Kshein chayzrin, when they're returning, ain't in bracha l'chatchil. They don't have to say another bracha when they get back. When do we say this? That's if one member of the party was still sitting there. If no one is there, then they do have to say a new bracha. Now, midiktani yakuraglayim, when it uses the expression that they uprooted their feet, that means they're leaving. Mechlal, the bidvar matun bracha lachrein ben kaimenaskin, it's probably talking about things that really require a bracha achrein in that place, which would mean anything other than fruit and water. We're talking about mezainas or wine or bread. Now, if that's the case, that even though they ate those things, we're seeing what's the reason why they don't have to say a new bracha? And what's the reason why they don't have to bench right away? That's only because they left the person there. There was one person that was waiting there. The party was still there. But if they don't have someone still there, when they return, they require a new bracha. If there was no one there. Now, who held? And what's the reason? Because that might make the meal's still going on. So, no, it could mean that you left. You were Mesiach Das. The Gemara concludes, Kasha Rav Chisda. This is a Kasha on Rav Chisda. Because Rav Chisda held that there was a difference, and if it were items that you needed to return for to make a bracha achreina, you don't need to say a new bracha. And here we're seeing that it's the person that was staying there that makes it. And Rav Chisda didn't have any of those conditions. Okay, so this ends up with the Kasha on Rav Chisda. For some reason, they still paskin like Rav Chisda. Maybe because there's a brisa later, Tanya Kavaseder Rav Chisda. That's Tosfos and the Rashbam. The only difference is not the only difference. There is a difference between Tosfos and Rashbam regarding if we're talking about bread or other things. Tosfos says, "Chutz mipasam minim mezainas, shein chameshes minim ein tzarich bracha achreim kainim v'shinim makim tzarich levarach bem." Bread and mezainas, you don't need to say another bracha if you went to a different location. However, wine, you do have to say in the bracha. Unless you washed, unless you're in the middle of the meal. So wine is going to be a difference between the Rashbam and Tosfos. The Rashbam is saying that the wine would be. Sorry. Yeah. Based on the Gersa over here. So he holds that wine is part of Rav Chisda's din, and Tosfos holds that it's not. Okay, let's leave the Gemara.